Hey everyone, and welcome back to I Heart Movies. Next time we'll have a very special episode for you. I haven't done one of these since July of 2020, I believe. Christmas in July with the Hallmarkies. Rachel and another one of her co-hosts will be joining me, but before we get to that, the co-host that will be joining us is Kari Olson, who is also the author of the comic series Hallmark Comics on Instagram, and since she's never been on my podcast before, and since we discovered we had a surprising connection, I thought we should definitely do a Q&A first. Okay. Well, first question I always ask everybody is to just tell me a little bit about yourself, like what you do, and if you have any hobbies, which probably coincides with how we got to know each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jonathan, thanks for having me on your show. I am Kari, and I am the creator of Hallmark Comics on Instagram, which is where we met. Mm-hmm. And we have mutual friends through podcasting endeavors that we do with Hallmark movies. So I'm a part of the Hallmarkies podcast group that Rachel leads. And I've been doing that since, for just about 2 years now. Okay. Since 2020, when we all were home and quarantined during the pandemic, and had a lot of fun kind of meeting those girls and starting to podcast with them. I had been a Hallmark fan just by hobby for a long time. And then when I started to draw the comics, I had just more chances to watch the shows, to get inspiration, and got my whole family watching, and that was pretty fun. So I am a mother of 3 kids, and my husband and I live here in the suburbs of Chicago with them. My daughter just started driving. She's 16, and then I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old as well. So we have a lot of fun. It's a busy stage of life. But so not only that, I work part-time. I help a friend with her Etsy shop. She prints, she designs custom covers for Bibles, actually. And then we print them on a couple of Glowforge lasers that we have. I was just going to ask,
is that a Glowforge thing? Those look so cool.
It's a Glowforge operation for sure. There's 4 machines, and we do it out of her basement. Then we send them off to the customers. It's been a lot of fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Well, another thing that I wanted to talk about, this is something I don't talk about with other people because it's just you and me. We found out that we have a strange mutual connection in that when I went to friend you on Facebook before last year when we were originally going to do this podcast, you were friends with my Aunt Carla.
Right.
So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. It was so funny when you found that out, and I got a message from you, which, I know you through Rachel Wagner, and then you and I were trying to get a podcast going, an episode going, and you said, how do you know my Aunt Carla, or something like that? And I cracked up because I thought, I really only know one Carla. Could he be talking about my mom's friend, Carla? And sure enough, you were. So we grew up with Carla and her husband and her family. There's a baseball connection there. Her husband is in ministry with baseball with the Detroit Tigers. And my dad is a retired Detroit Tiger. He was a baseball player. And so we knew them. Let's see, Jeff and my dad, Frank, are good friends. Thus, my mom and Carla are good friends. And we just have known each other for a while. So it's so fun to know that you are her nephew.
Yeah. When I first went to friend you on Facebook, I was like, well, when I saw that there was mutual connection, I was like, oh, it's probably just Rachel and somebody else from Hallmarkies.
Right.
And I clicked it. It was like, Aunt Carla?
Right. Well, I grew up in the Detroit area, of course, and where the Detroit Tigers are, and that's where she's from. So it does feel like a random connection. But don't you feel like the internet, just like there's all of these, loops and bridges and everything that we just make all the time, these connections. It's so fun.
Yeah, the internet kind of makes that song seem more true. It's a small world after all.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, that was fun. Have you told Carla that you and I are connected online?
Yeah, like a day or two after I discovered that, I came upstairs and she was talking to my mom on the phone, and then mom put it on speaker and we're trying to figure out like, how'd you know her? And
yeah,
it was funny.
so funny. I know. That's a fun connection. She's a great lady. It's your mom's sister?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Nice.
Well, I guess we can get back to the normal questions that I ask everybody.
Sure.
So you talked about starting with the Hallmarkies during quarantine. Did you know Rachel and everybody before that, or did you just meet them during that whole time period?
Yeah, it was kind of fun, a fun way how it happened. So a little bit about Hallmark comics, because that was what our connection was, is our random love for all things Hallmark. And I started drawing Hallmark comics as just a funny little New Year's resolution I had for myself in 2020. Of course, at that time, the world was pretty normal as we knew it. And I just thought that I was going to have a creative, draw a little something every day type of New Year's resolution. And that morphed into drawing comics about Hallmark. And I found I was just endlessly inspired by the Hallmark movies and the fun, loving jokes I could make about them. And so once I started kind of gaining a couple followers, some people started to notice Hallmark comics, because Hallmark has quite the following of fans online, and on Instagram specifically is where my comics are. And so I started to meet and interact with Caroline, who is one of the hosts of the Hallmarkies podcast. And it's possible that she was the one who pitched the idea of having me as a guest on the show. So I came on and I did a really fun episode about, Hallmark dates and first dates and stuff like that, with Rachel and Caroline, and then Amy, our friend Amy, who used to podcast with us. And it was so much fun. We had a great time talking. And after just that one episode, Rachel was so kind and said, "Hey, would you want to be a regular? And not just a regular, would you want to host? Would you want to host some of these?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, I do. That was a blast. I totally want to talk with you guys about Hallmark movies more and more." So that was kind of how we connected. We have only met each other online. But I just think she's such a great girl, and she has such creative ideas for, her podcast. And she's just always thinking, always watching movies, always reviewing things. And I love that about her.
Yeah, she's not the only reason, but she's like the main reason that I started podcasting, because I'd already kind of wanted to do it, but I'd never really seriously thought about starting anything. Because I think it was back in 2012, I discovered podcasts. I don't think I'd listened to podcasts before that, but I found the Rotoscopers podcast, which is an animation podcast. And then I really liked it, and I thought it would be fun to do a podcast, but I did not seriously think about doing it. And then they were looking for writers, and I applied and became a writer for their website. And then fun. Like the next year, I think Rachel became a writer for their website. So that's how we met. And then
that's awesome. Probably
like a year after that, Rachel was building her YouTube thing. And this is before Hallmarkies too. But she was wanting to do a series on Doctor Who, which I'm a Doctor Who fan. So she invited me onto her. I don't think it was a podcast at that point. I think it was just for YouTube.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Reviewing movies and shows. Okay.
Yeah. But I did that. And then I told her that I kind of liked the idea. And she basically just encouraged me to go ahead and do it.
There's so much room for all sorts of podcasters and people who want to get out there and interview things. I mean, none of us step on each other's toes. We all just kind of want to support each other in these loves. So that's so cool.
Yeah. It's just a whole lot of fun. And now it's the main thing that I do in my free time.
Right. I would say that I feel like podcasting has definitely made me more interesting as well, because it's an actual thing now. I could say, hey, I have this hobby and I podcast about Hallmark movies, and I even draw about them and write comics about them. And it's so funny. I mean, before, I don't know if I would have said anything except, oh, I like to read. Oh, I like to watch movies, but now it feels like I'm doing a little something more productive and, creative with a hobby. So I just think that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I never listened to Hallmarkies podcast before I was a guest on it. But then afterwards, of course, I listened to the episode I was on in June of 2020. And then I just started listening to these podcasts, and I thought it was so fun, and their interviews that they have, but also mostly just like the recaps of the movies and the bonus episodes was really, really fun. So it just kind of opened my eyes to the world of podcasting and Hallmark podcasting specifically.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I guess I would say I'm on the fringes of Hallmark podcasting, because that's not what I usually podcast about. This is kind of like, well, now it's going to be what I used to do. Like at the beginning of my podcast, I did Christmas in July with the Hallmarkies.
Right.
And I had Rachel and Amber on.
Yes.
And then the next year, I think Caroline was on. And then after that was Cammie. And I didn't do one last year, but I was planning on doing something in December, which was this one. And then we had too many things come up and didn't happen. But so now it's back to Christmas in July with the Hallmarkies.
It works out great. We love Christmas in July over at Hallmark Channel, and our Hallmarkies we're so excited. They're giving us 3 brand new Christmas movies, specifically Christmas in July movies. I mean, they're going to be so much fun.
Only 3? Hallmark makes so many movies.
Well, the 3, and then what will come in December, October, November, December will be like
so 4, many,
right?
I don't know how the Hallmark fandom keeps up with all of the movies that they get. We
hardly can. It's by the skin of our teeth, is what I think it is. In fact, I had to let go of that expectation that I would watch every single Christmas movie that came out. Last year. I know there were a few that I didn't get to.
I'm sure there's
kind of sad.
Every time Rachel says a number of how many they've made, it just kind of blows my mind. It's like, how do they make that many?
I know. So crazy. It's fun. So you like to do Christmas in July, huh?
Yeah, I tried to do something for Christmas in July every year. Last year, like I said, I didn't do it with the Hallmarkies. I have another friend who has a channel called Trivial Theater, and she likes to do kind of bad movies, like old, cheesy. Yeah. We did one called Santa Claus Meets the Easter Bunny, I believe. Or no, Santa Claus and the Ice Cream Bunny. It wasn't the Easter Bunny. It was the most random, weird, terrible old movie, but it was hilarious. So that was my Christmas in July last year. It was quite different than what I'd done before, but it was fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, that somehow some films like that get made, and we want to do them justice by giving them some attention.
Well, like I've talked about this with Nikki, Trivial Theater, a lot. Sometimes it's more fun to talk about them than it was to actually watch them.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, besides Hallmark stuff, do you have any other favorite things like TV shows or books or movies?
Oh, good question. I have a couple of, my husband and I, when we sit down and watch something together, we really have enjoyed this past year. Of course, Stranger Things, although we're late in the game of season 4. We need to watch season 4 still.
Season 4 either.
Oh, yeah.
I've had too much going on with my podcast to get to it.
I know. We will definitely get to it. So I like Stranger Things. We really enjoyed Ted Lasso together. That was really, really fun.
Rachel keeps mentioning that. That's on my list. I haven't watched it yet.
It's just good. It's just good TV. Yeah. We thought it was so sweet. Of course, there isn't, unless you can get some swear words edited out. You know, it's not a show that I would recommend to everybody, but you know, if someone doesn't particularly like strong language in a show, but after a while, we found that you just don't hear it anymore. You know,
yeah, my brain edits it out.
Yeah, especially those British shows. You know, they have a different standard for language than we do.
Yeah, definitely.
But that one was really, really fun. Of course, I love any Jane Austen movie or adaptation. I really, really love that. So I'm looking forward to watching the new Persuasion that's coming out on Netflix next week.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll get to it this year, but I'm planning on doing a series on Pride and Prejudice on my Every Version Ever podcast. Oh,
you need to. That would be a fantastic episode. I mean, I feel like I can take movies. Are you like this? I can take movies with the same storyline, the same, you know, that's just like the same movie over and over again, but I can enjoy it for the different thing that it brings.
That's the whole point of my Every Version Ever podcast.
Really?
Because I like watching all the different versions of the same story just to see what kind of new spins they put on the story. Exactly. Every filmmaker is different.
And I like different versions for different reasons. I really loved the most recent Emma that came out. It was so quirky
I had never heard of. I mean, I'd heard the name Emma. I didn't know what it was, but I kept hearing all these great reviews. So I just went to the theater on a whim, and I absolutely loved it.
Yes,
it was one of my favorite movies of that year.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I love that. I mean, I really don't turn my nose up at any adaptation. So I'm excited to see this next one, and hopefully there will be some great things it pulls out of this story of Persuasion. It's one of my favorite Jane Austens. I love it. I
haven't read it, but I ordered a bunch of old, like, classic literature stuff that I knew I was going to be doing for my Every Version Ever podcast. So I was like, I should either reread or read some of these books. And they sent me Persuasion that I didn't order. I was like, it was included in the box. I was like, what is this? Okay. I'll take it, I guess. Oh. So that one, I guess it was a sign that I should add Persuasion to my list for future series on Every Version Ever.
Right. Well, I found Persuasion to be the most readable of her books, I think. The one I really enjoyed the most. You know, Pride and Prejudice, of course, is so long. And I think I prefer the movies, actually, to that book, which is sacrilegious to say, I guess. But
I mean, some filmmakers can make a really good story into an amazing movie. So it's fine if you find a version you like better than the book.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know.
10 years ago, I wouldn't have had that opinion because I was one of those people that was like, if it's not the exact same as the book, I hate it. But I've gotten over that.
Exactly. Oh man, that's great. Yeah. No, I've had some good luck with some of those things. I really enjoy old. I was raised on old classic musicals. You know, On the Town, or Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, or The Sound of Music, and Carousel, and all of Oklahoma, and all of those wonderful, wonderful movies. So I enjoy popping those on every once in a while, and just Summer Stock with Gene Kelly. Oh, and Judy Garland's one of my favorites. I just love that movie.
Yeah, we had a bunch of those growing up too. I didn't see all those movies, but we had a bunch of those that we watched a lot.
Yeah.
We had the two VHS version of Sound of Music. When you finish one half, you got to get the other tape out and put that in.
That's right. That's good. Going to Blockbuster and seeing which musical was right there in the section. I mean, it was just such a thrill. I loved that. That was fun. It was so funny. Rachel and I connected on an old series that used to be, it was called Fairy Tale Theater. I don't know if you ever saw any fairy tale theater, but back in the 80s, they would take someone very popular to that time, like an actor like Christopher Reeves or Bernadette Peters, and they would put them in a fairy tale, like a live action fairy tale show, and air them like Sunday nights on NBC or something. And they were just funny and kooky, and Robin Williams playing the Frog Prince was just still something I just crack up over. And I didn't know of anyone who knew of these movies, except Rachel mentioned one time. And I was like, no way. You had watched fairy tale theater? Like, that was some of my favorite things growing up. It was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny how movies can bring us together a little bit, but
yeah, I don't think I've seen that show, but I know of it because every time I start a new series on every version ever, I start looking up all the different versions to find. And that show keeps popping up because it's done a number of the shows.
Exactly.
A number of the stories that I would use for that series.
Exactly. Well, at some point you'll have to dive into one and just see. I mean, it's just hilarious. These are just hilarious shows. So
yeah.
Yes. So what about you? What's your favorite version ever that you've covered?
Which story?
I don't know, if any. Do you have like a story that just is a story that grabs you and you're like, I will watch any version of this show no matter what?
Well, right now it seems to be Alice in Wonderland because there are so many Alice in Wonderlands, and it's always entertaining to see what twists the different filmmakers put on that. And it's also the most popular series I've done on my channel. It's the reason that I started every version ever, because, and this goes back to Rachel again, because she wondered, like, we were talking about favorite movies at one point, and I really like the 99 version of Alice in Wonderland, and we were talking about that and just different versions, and she hated the 2010 version with Johnny Depp, and I really liked that one. She was like, well, you should make a video about why you liked that. So I did, and then I followed it up with a video on the 99 version, and I was like, I could probably make this into a series. I'll watch all the versions of Alice in Wonderland and I'll do a video each week. We'll call it Wonderland Wednesday.
Great idea.
Those videos became some of my most popular, and not long after I started doing that, I realized that this could go on for a while because there are so many versions of that story that has been made, not just in America, not just in the UK, all over the world. And there's
that's awesome.
Big blockbuster versions and tiny low budget TV versions, and there's so many.
That's awesome.
That's probably the most interesting one, just because I keep coming back to it and I'm always finding something new. That's what I'm in the middle of right now.
There must be something about that story that just captures your interest and attention. And I love it.
Well, do you have a favorite movie, like the favorite movie? Or are you like me and you have a terrible time choosing a favorite?
Well, yeah. Of course you think in your mind, okay, genre. Like, just give me a genre, give me a subset, or something. But I do think, I guess back to Jane Austen, I do think Pride and Prejudice would be a favorite movie of mine, if not the favorite. It's one that I remember watching the miniseries in 1995 on TV on the BBC. It must have been PBS for us here in the States, but on PBS in real time, waiting for a week to see the next installment. I mean, I had never read the book before. I had never heard of Jane Austen before. And that was my first introduction to it. And honestly, I could watch the 5-hour version. I could watch the 2-hour version. It doesn't matter. I love that movie. So it's possible that Pride and Prejudice would be my favorite of all time. I really, really like Disney animation. So if we're talking, love it. If we're talking favorite movie of all time, it's most likely Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Disney always comes to mind when I'm trying to think of a favorite. I usually just default to Fantasia because I grew up with Fantasia and I loved that movie as a kid, which is a weird movie for a little kid to love, but I did. Yeah. Also, Bambi was another favorite as a kid.
Oh, Bambi, that's a good one. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I love animation. That's, like I said, that's how Rachel and I got to know each other, was through animation. Stories on that podcast and their website.
It's good. I mean, there are animation. It doesn't matter if it's animation or not. If it's a good story, I will cry. It'll tug at my heartstrings. It'll make me just like riled up. And I just loved it. And when Disney started, having a notable difference in their animation, and I remember, maybe it was sooner than this, but Tangled was awe-inspiring to me. I just thought it was a beautifully animated movie, and just the color scheme throughout and the lanterns and the lights. And I thought that was so gorgeous. So that was a really a fun theater experience.
Yeah. Tangled is usually what people point to. Like if you're big into Disney, you know that Disney has different eras that people have divided the movies into. And usually people point to Tangled as the first one in the Disney revival area, because the era before that was the post-Renaissance, which was after the 90s when Disney kind of went, which is in some people's minds went downhill. But then with Tangled, it was like, this is going back to the greatness and beyond what they were before.
That is so cool to hear you kind of give me a little history that way, because, just living it, I felt that. I felt like we are back, baby. Like I am going to be run into the theater, watch any Disney movie now. That's so interesting. Okay. Maybe, I felt it. Yeah. I felt that it was back.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if that was just because I had I had two little girls at that point, and I was just excited to get them into the theater and watch Disney movies like I loved growing up. But it definitely felt like a new era. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
It was. That's now what people point to as the revival of Disney.
Cool. I was, okay. I'm hip to the scene. I can dig it like that. Awesome.
Well, kind of in that same category, I usually end these Q&As by asking, what is the first movie that you remember seeing in theaters?
Good question. I believe it was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep. I think it was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and it was amazing, and it was fantastic. And I couldn't, the kids are stuck in the backyard in this grass, and they fall into the cereal bowl and with the Cheerios. That would have been an interesting one to see on the big screen. That was one we borrowed from the library a lot. I've never really thought about it recently, but that would have been a good one to see on the big screen. Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. That's the one I first remember. I don't know if I'd have to ask my mom. That might be a fun, I don't think she'd remember either, but that one made an impression, on me, but I believe it was one of the first ones. Okay. Well, those are all my questions. And the good questions. Those are fun ones to answer. Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah. We should probably wrap this up. Rachel is in the waiting room waiting for me to admit her. Sure. Do you want to let people know where they can find you if they want more from you? Yeah, absolutely. If you want to come and see my sketches, my little drawings about Hallmark comics, come to Instagram and follow me at Hallmark_comics. That's Hallmark_comics. Okay. Well, we will be back soon because we're going to be doing a podcast with Rachel momentarily. So fun. Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah. Thanks for listening to this episode of the I Heart Movies podcast. If you like what you've heard, make sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform or to the I Heart Movies YouTube channel. Make sure to follow my co-hosts as well. Any relevant links will be in the description for easy access. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Okay, it says Rachel is on her way in. Okay, good.
Howdy.
Hey. Hi.
How are you all?
Good.
We just had a fun conversation. It's so fun talking movies, and he asked some good questions.
Oh, I'm excited to listen to it because I'm sure it covers stuff that we just never really talked about. So that'll be fun to get to know you better.
It's true. You'll hear your name mentioned quite a bit. You're a connection for both of us.
Right.
Yeah, you're kind of the reason that we're both into the podcast world.
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm grateful to both of you so much. So.
Aw, thanks, Rach.